talk about the actual substance, about what we need to address.
It's hard to when you got a guy who says he wants to be a dictator for a day. It's hard when it's a guy who says you got to terminate the Constitution in order to overturn the results of an election. It's hard when it's a guy who's led an attempted coup in this country.
Get over the derangement syndrome and focus on the actual problems we have to solve as a country. And you look at actually the border, the economy, staying out of foreign wars. Yeah, I will take a president who has sharp elbows, who is actually able to accomplish those things.
So words don't matter?
Over somebody. I'm not saying words don't matter. Yes, words do matter, but words taken out of context in a way. Am I going to say everything the same way that Donald Trump did? I don't know why I'm sitting here being questioned, again, what the entire media loves to do, on picking some word Trump said, and we're sitting here talking about that rather than a vision for the country.
Okay, well, all right, folks, so Vivek Ramaswamy just went on Breakfast Club, which is that Black Power show hosted by Charlamagne the Clown. Of course, he calls himself Charlamagne the God, but we're not going to recognize that label here because, first of all, he's not a god, and secondly, even if he was an intelligent and insightful person, which he is not, it would still be blasphemous to call him that, okay? So the nickname is, of course, Charlamagne the Clown. If he wants a different name, then change your original title to begin with, because we're not calling you Charlamagne the God, okay? You don't deserve that. Nobody deserves that, but especially not you, right? So Charlamagne the Clown, we're going to react to some of it here today. I'm obviously not going to play the whole thing, but you can basically sum up this entire hour-and-a-half podcast like this, which again shows that Charlamagne is just not the brightest person, because Vivek will be saying something, usually that's insightful or intelligent. He'll be trying to make a very complex point, and Charlamagne will respond by saying the dumbest, most unrelated, random thing, and it totally derails the meaning of the conversation. I'll give you some examples, right? Vivek will be talking about a conservative policy, and Charlamagne will respond like, but you know Donald Trump is a bad guy, right? I kid you not, this is basically what happens like a million different times. Or Vivek will be talking about American history and the founding fathers and, you know, America and whatnot. And Charlamagne will respond with, but you know the founding fathers were racist, right? We're going to react to some of those clips here today, okay? And let's start with the Donald Trump one because, you know, way back in summer 2023-ish, I said that Vivek would make a great press secretary for Trump. I now have sort of moved off of that stance because I think he's done a lot more to deserve a lot more important position than that. But he sort of has to play the role here in this clip we're about to watch because, you know, he's trying to just talk about the GOP and what the vision of the GOP should be. And then Charlamagne tries to make it like, hey, but Donald Trump said this. Do you defend Donald Trump? And then Vivek basically has to go into that press secretary mode. So we'll talk about that first. We got the second clip for you after that. Just as a disclaimer, though, you know, Breakfast Club and Charlamagne are pretty big copyright trolls, so I'm going to try to pause as much as possible. I know you guys don't always like that, but we have to, copyright reasons. And I've also flipped the video and added like this yellow filter to it to try to not catch up their ridiculous abuses of fair use. But, you know, what do you expect from Charlamagne the Clown? But anyways, folks, take a listen here.
Those elected leaders owe a moral duty to the citizens of this country, not the citizens of Ukraine or another one. And oh, by the way, we all get to express and speak our minds freely and in the open. Whether or not we disagree, you get to speak your mind, and you do, and I do too, as long as each of us gets the same right in return. I think those are basic rules of the road that most of us, 90% of us in this country, agree on. And
now, Trump doesn't agree with that, though. Trump already said he wants to shut the media down for speaking about him if he becomes president again.
I think that...
See what I mean? See what I mean? Right? But you know, Trump... Vivek didn't come here to talk about Trump. Vivek came to talk about Vivek and the things he believes, right? And even, by the way, on that front, when he said... what he's referring to is Trump put out like a Truth Social joking. It was a joke. It was an obvious joke that like CNN should have their licenses revoked or however that works. I mean, you know, but whatever. Okay. Anyways,
here's what I've noticed happening in the country. I've had a front row seat to the media. Okay. For the last year, believe me, 12 of them follow me around everywhere I've gone for a long time. We do interviews at the end of every day, and I've granted more, you know, media access or press access than anybody else for full transparency. Actually, we become friends with some of them. Young people, actually. Best ones, I think, aren't going to end up even staying in media.
Are you about to make excuses to why Trump wants to shut the media
down? No, I'm going to tell you something else. Is what I've seen happen is, because I get questions on this regularly. Trump will say something. There will be one word they pick out. Vermin was one. They followed me around about that for a week. What do you think about the Donald Trump called his opponents vermin? And it's a whole game that the media plays where they will
quoting
pick,
Hitler. Vivek.
They will pick one word he says and then actually have you respond to it, as opposed to taking
actually quoting
the
Hitler.
actual. But the obsession.
No, he wasn't.
Over picking some word that Donald Trump said.
He was quoting
and
Hitler.
Making that the news story versus actually asking about the substance.
Right?
I mean, Charlamagne, I think I saw some of your own commentary recently where you agree with me on the border being a crisis. And it's ridiculous what's happening on the southern border.
What got to do with anything?
What did he say? What did he say that quoted Hitler? Let's actually just go to the specifics. Let's just go to the specifics and do this, because this is exactly what happened.
Oh boy!
Pull it up word for word. Read me the whole paragraph. What comes before, during, and after. I don't even know what you're referring to, but I know enough of how the game is played that I just want to play this out.
See what I'm saying? Press secretary mode. It's snatching in, right?
And he also said that he didn't know Hitler had used the term.
Okay,
and that was the poisoning the blood term. That's straight out of the manifesto.
Just because somebody says a word that also appears in some English translation of the manifesto is some sort of weird game of gotcha. Just read to me the full paragraph block quote.
You're saying immigrants poison the blood of America?
Give me Donald Trump's quote. We're not going to do the game of the secondhand, NBC News distillation of it. Just get to the primary source.
Hold on.
Because I know Donald Trump, and he's not somebody who goes around quoting Adolf Hitler. It's just not a thing that happens. I know half this country is taught to believe by the media that that's what he does, but that's just not Donald Trump.
I think the real number is 15, 16 million people in our country. When they do that, we got a lot of work to do. They're poisoning the blood of our country, Trump told the crowd at a rally in New Hampshire. That's what they've done. They poison mental institutions and prisons all over the world, not just in South America, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we think about, but all over the world. They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world. And he kept repeating the phrase, poisoning the blood of our country.
It's just so dishonest. It really is. Okay, so the thing they've been running with, which again is just so stupid, is that, well, Hitler used those words, I guess, in the manifesto, so Mein Kampf, I think he's talking about, which Charlamagne acts like it's like a 2-page long short essay. It's a very long book, okay? So because Trump and Hitler at different points use the same 3 words, poisoning the blood, that's 3 words because they once used the same words, that means Donald Trump was quoting Hitler. Which, again, Vivek is right. I don't think either Trump is a guy who goes around quoting Hitler. Doesn't even seem like who Donald Trump would be. You think Donald Trump has read Mein Kampf? I mean, that's just so ridiculous, right? But on that front, I've heard plenty of other people use the term poisoning the blood. Adolf Hitler did not invent those English words, which, by the way, are translated from German. Okay, so it's not even like an exact parallel, I'd have to assume. What a ridiculously stupid thing to say. Now, I'm not surprised that the mainstream media ran with that, because they'll run with literally anything. But it shows, Charlamagne claims to be, oh yeah, I'm not left or right, I'm an independent thinker, I'm my own guy, I don't like both parties. It's a serious lack of either intelligence or lack of honesty to believe that that's what Donald Trump was trying to do, was quote Hitler. Just unbelievable.
You just do me one favor, because we got it. I think this is so valuable. Just read exactly Trump's quote. Read the whole sentence.
Illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation.
Okay, and read the rest of it as you did. Just go the whole paragraph, because I think.
Did.
Just do it one more time, just so everybody hear what he actually said versus the news story.
The term blood poisoning was used by Hitler in his
read what Donald Trump said, not what somebody wrote about it.
He criticized immigration and the mixing of all races. Trump is doing the exact same thing.
They're poisoning the mental health institutions. They're poisoning the prisons.
Said poisoning the blood of our country.
That was one line from a broader litany.
That's Hitler's line.
And so I'll tell you this, man. I went to the south side of Chicago in this campaign against the advice of my campaign advisors, because they said, why are you going there in the middle of a primary? I'm running to unite the country. You know what they're doing in Chicago right now, or at least at the time I went there? They were converting South Shore High School, a poor high school on the south side of Chicago, into an encampment for migrants who are in this country illegally at a cost of $7,000 per migrant per month.
Absolutely. That happened in New York a couple years ago.
There were things.
And that's absolutely worse than anything Donald Trump said, right? And this is what they try to do. They try to say, oh, but he was mean about it. He was mean. Let's falsely compare the quote to Hitler. What is this, of course, an attempt to do? It's to deflect from the real crisis of illegal immigration because they can't argue against it. The American people see it. They're having to deal with it. But of course, the biggest concern to them is not the immigration crisis. It's, but you need to talk about it in a politically correct way. Many such cases.
Things said in the room that I was in that were far more incendiary than what you just read right there. And I don't hold it against the people who were in that room with me because America First includes all Americans. And I think it is dead wrong that we are rewarding mass numbers of people who have entered this country illegally, breaking the law as they do it, coming in by the millions, and rewarding them more than we are our own fellow citizens right here.
You'll get no
and so why don't? So that's a major problem affecting people.
You'll get no major disagreement from me. So actually, that's a pretty useful insight into how Charlamagne thinks, because we know he's like this black power guy. I'd argue he may be something more than that. But Vivek just brought up the fact that he went to black people on the south side of Chicago and spoke to them about the immigration crisis. And Vivek just said those black people who are dealing with that stuff said far worse things about illegal immigration than poisoning the blood, and he doesn't hold it against them. And Charlamagne says, well, you'll get no major disagreement from me. Then why do you hold it against Donald Trump? Because when Trump speaks about it, he's a white guy saying it. So, it's only when illegal immigration affects black people that you're allowed to say whatever you want about it, but white people can't. Actually, that's basically how Charlamagne thinks. It shows you everything you need to know, right? But
black and white, Democrat and Republican, poor and middle class across this country. And yet we're sitting here obsessing over one word in a long paragraph that said poison the blood when it included a reference to mental health institutions and jails and other public resources in the United States. That is everything that's wrong with our media right now.
When you
I think that it's going to be people like you guys who are actually going to help lead the media out of this because you are actually not beholden by the same partisan orthodoxy.
When you got a guy
let's talk about the actual substance about what we need to address.
It's hard to when you got a guy who says he wants to be a dictator for a day. It's hard when it's a guy who says you got to terminate the Constitution in order to overturn the results of an election. It's hard when it's a guy who's led an attempted coup in this country.
No. Over the derangement syndrome and focus on the actual problems we have to solve as a country. And you look at actually the border, the economy. You want to look at staying out of foreign wars. Yeah, I will take a president who has sharp elbows, who is actually able to accomplish those things.
So words don't matter
over somebody. I'm not saying words don't matter. Yes, words do matter, but words taken out of context in a way. Am I going to say everything the same way that Donald Trump did? I don't know why I'm sitting here being questioned, again, the entire media loves to do, on picking some word Trump said, and we're sitting here talking about that rather than a vision for the country.
Okay,
well, get used to it, Vivek, because you're going to campaign with him. So
let's talk about the actual country. Let's talk about the actual issues we're addressing as a country.
Let's ask about this for the vision of the country.
Yes, exactly. Let's talk about the actual country.
What's the point of the GOP attaching themselves to Trump the way they have when he hasn't won anything since 2016?
The GOP attaching themselves to Trump is I think a bizarre framing where the GOP is electing a leader to lead our America First movement to the next level. And they're saying in droves that Donald Trump should be that leader. Now, how do we actually use that to accomplish something for our country? Our country, I think, made a poor decision in putting Joe Biden in office. I think the results speak for themselves. I think a lot of the economic numbers are fallacy. Prices are higher.
Okay, so that basically sums up that clip. But again, it goes to show you what I've been talking about. They'll be having a somewhat decent and insightful discussion, and then Charlamagne either will have total TDS, right, Trump derangement syndrome. That's also something that Piers Morgan called out on his podcast as well the other day. Ironically, right, Piers Morgan, of all people, accusing someone else of Trump derangement syndrome. But yeah, okay, Vivek handles it well. Like I said, I think by now he should be something better than the press secretary, but hey, You see, he's pretty good at that role. That's what I thought like about almost a year ago now. But okay, anyways, moving on here, folks. I want to talk about some of the non-Trump related stuff. I did say at one point that Vivek was talking about, the country in 1776 and the founding fathers and all that. And listen to what Charlamagne said in response. All right, here you go.
Yes. The thing we need to decide in the Republican Party is not me or Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley versus Donald Trump. Forget the personalities. Who are we and what do we actually stand for? I think the Republican Party should become the party of 1776. The party that says we stand for the ideals of the American Revolution. Self-governance, free speech, open debate, that you get to speak your minds openly as long as I get to in return.
We weren't included in none of that, though. Black people, brown people like yourself.
Yeah.
See what I mean, right? He just always has to deflect the conversation to something stupid, whether it's Trump or, he's talking about the ideals of the country. And it's like, but the founding fathers were racist, right?
Well, like envy. We were never included.
Black.
But let's celebrate the progress we have made towards those ideals.
Exactly.
Because here's the thing about the United States of America. We're a nation founded of, I don't mean this as a joke. We're not a nation of gods. We're a nation of men. The difference between man and God is that man is imperfect. Yet we're a nation still founded on ideals.
But only white men founded those ideas. That's the problem, though.
That's in the past, man.
That's not in the past. The other day.
Does it make the ideals wrong? Argue against the ideals. I don't understand. Do you want a Netflix remake of 1776? Okay. Does Netflix need to do a documentary where all the founding fathers are black? Okay. George Washington played by Denzel Washington. Is that what you need? That's just so ridiculous. Either you agree with the ideals or you don't. But not to Charlamagne, because actually, I'll say it, and I really do believe it. I think Charlamagne in many ways is a racist. Okay. And for him, it's like, if it's not black people in charge, and if it's not black people doing this or that, then it's wrong. Okay. White people can't do anything right. Like that's his viewpoint. It really is.
I can't remember the site where they said
I think that
they're referred to as a 7-Eleven worker at the White House.
Oh, the Babylon Bee.
Yeah,
oh my God.
This is
and that's
satire.
a right-wing conservative.
This is satire.
But that's how they look at us. That ain't satire. That's how they look at you, and that's how they look at us.
Can I just what do you think?
Okay, so what they're referring to here is that if you saw last week, the Babylon Bee, which is a satire site, so this freaking idiot's like, bro, that ain't satire, bro. No, actually it is. The Babylon Bee is a satire site, okay? Like, that's what everyone knows about the Babylon Bee. But anyways, they published this article like saying Trump offers Vivek Ramaswamy a job as the manager of the 7-Eleven in the White House, right? Making an Indian joke. And obviously, what was it? It's a satire site making a joke because Vivek is Indian. I thought it was funny. I don't think there's any need to get offended by it. I know even some of Vivek fans were like, oh, this is not classy or whatever. Guys, it's a joke. It's comedy. Learn to laugh. You guys always claim to be against political correctness, and then the moment someone makes a politically incorrect joke on a comedy site, suddenly you're offended. But in defense of Vivek himself, he went out there and played into the joke. He said it was funny. He said he could take it. And then he even made a joke about like, come get the Slurpee. So, he totally gets it. But these guys are out here trying to make the case that because Babylon Bee published a joke about Vivek working at 7-Eleven, which again is a satire site, see, that's proof conservatives are racist. Meanwhile, these two characters probably say the most vile things about white people all the time, and they're not joking, but you know how it goes. Like I said, what did I say?
I think it was a joke. I took it as a joke. It actually, if you read into the article, which I did, it was actually poking fun at a lot of the left-wing self-awareness here. What do you think Martin Luther King would say? We just had MLK Day. We celebrated. That was the day of the Iowa caucus. What do you think he would say about where we are as a country today? He said, I hope my 4 children grow up in a country where they're judged not on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. When he said that about 60 years ago, and he woke up to the country, let's say he just teletransported to the country we're in right now, do you think he would say that, oh my gosh, we have regressed? Or that, oh, I'm very upset about where we've landed? Or he sees a country where everybody's able to go to the ballot box and cast their vote. anybody's able to start a business. Does everybody start from the same place? No.
There's a lot of voter suppression that keeps black people.
I'm asking you a question, though. If you just...
What? This guy.
I have a theory on how to deal with it at this point. I think the right answer is actually to let it atrophy to irrelevance. It's like the equivalence. I'm a biologist by background. That's my background. If a virus gets so low, right? Racism is the virus. If it gets so low in the bloodstream at a certain point, the natural host immune system can just take care of it and it atrophies to irrelevance. But sometimes the way people actually die of a virus isn't actually from the effect of the virus. It's from an overactive immune system that kills the very host organ in the name of fighting a virus long after it's gone. And I think that that's close to what we're happening in this country with the fight against racism is we are creating new racism today that I believe would not exist if we at a certain point would say we're going to let it go and move on.
Give us an example.
That is such a brilliant analogy. Okay, I've never thought about it like that, but it's completely true. Sometimes it's the virus that kills you. Sometimes it's your allergic reaction to it that kills you, or it's the symptoms of your own immune system. And it's true. I think currently with racism in America, that's a very smart way to. I've never heard anyone say something like that, but that is actually very bright. Okay, but. I'm sure we can ensure that Charlamagne's going to say something stupid in response. Let's just check really quickly. Let's see.
What's new racism? New anti-black racism. Huh? A new wave of anti-black racism.
Okay, so he doesn't even understand what Vivek is talking about. Okay, that makes sense. Anyways, with that said, folks, there's Vivek on the Breakfast Club. I just wanted to react to a little bit of it. I wish I could react to more. I wish I could not have to pause so much. But again, as you know, they literally just like copyright troll everyone with this stuff. It's very hard to do reaction content to Breakfast Club. That's why we don't do more of it. But yeah, I encourage you to go watch the whole podcast because I assure you this is basically the entire thing. Okay, this dynamic sums it up. Now, one thing I will say in fairness is that at least Charlamagne lets Vivek talk, unlike a lot of other hosts that are like, but Vivek, he lets him talk. But then at the end of his point, he'll just say something really stupid that is just like, what? So many such cases. All right, with that said, folks, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. What role do you want to see Vivek have in the Trump White House? Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Also, let me know your thoughts on Charlamagne because I find this guy to be just such a insanely ridiculous clown. So let me know about that. And until next time, Alpha Moves Only. God bless. Have a very good day and peace.